right, hello and welcome to the BCE Comics Pod One Shot Edition. I'm your host Nick Smith, and I'm joined by.
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing well, particularly since we're participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and we are starting a new volume of X-Men today. All right, X-Men Volume 13, Wounded Wolf. Well, for our intro for the volume, again, we haven't read all this all the way through, so I'm just going to read off the back here. Let's see. Rachel Summers lays claim to the Phoenix Force, Magneto stands trial and joins the team, Professor X departs for outer space, and Cyclops becomes a father. And that's just the start of the X-Men's adventure. The Beyonder erases the New Mutants from history, the futuristic Nimrod Sentinel attacks, and Mojo regresses the team to childhood. Plus, in a pair of bona fide X-Men classics, Storm duels with Cyclops for team leadership, and Lady Deathstrike hunts Wolverine. A fan-favorite X-Men saga unfolds in Asgard as Storm and the New Mutants fall under the enchantment of Loki, and the rest of the team faces a legendary struggle to rescue them. Alright, so certainly sounds like quite a bit going on here, but that's what the back blurb is supposed to make you think, right?
Yeah, and this is a recent release, relatively speaking. So October 2025. This is the first release of this book. So everybody's going to have one printing. There hasn't been enough time to be another printing. The cover of this book is to, I think, the last issue of the book. Issue, what is it, 212 or 210, which is also what's used with the oversized hardcover for Mutant Massacre. But notably, on the Mutant Massacre, you have Wolverine smoking, as he does in the original, but they digitally removed his cigarette thing from the cover here, which not a big deal, but just it's worth pointing out. So reuse the cover multiple times, and you get a variety of different ways that cover's shown.
It is interesting the changes over time, right? Yeah, the 80s, no one would have given a second thought of a comic book character smoking. I mean, that was one of the defining characteristics of not only Wolverine, but Ben Grimm, the Thing, right? Always had a cigar in his mouth, and I think it was, mid-2000s, Joe Quesada's editor-in-chief just finally said, nope, new rule, no smoking allowed.
Yeah, I mean, probably around that era. I know Wolverine kind of stops after the Fatal Attractions, after he kind of loses adamantium and his healing factor's all messed up in Wolverine 75. But as a policy at Marvel, where they kind of shut it down for Ben and Nick Fury
Yeah.
Wolverine and things like that. It's probably more around that time frame that you're talking about.
Yep. All right, well, shall we get into the first issue for this collection? Oh, hey, look, there's the cover. I knew I had that slide in there for a reason, but we didn't go over it. That's okay. We did. I didn't have the slide up. All right, our first issue in this epic is Uncanny X-Men number 199, The Spiral Path, written by Chris Claremont, art by John Romita Jr. and Dan Green, and we have a series of various plot points going on here. Firstly, Moira McTaggart reveals that Professor X is dying because he's been overdoing it. Meanwhile, Rachel is trying to overcome her past and reconcile that this is a different timeline, a different dimension than hers. And in this timeline, her mother, Jean Grey, is dead. Mystique makes a deal with Valerie Cooper to turn the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants into presidential lackeys called the Freedom Force, and Val Cooper sends them on their first mission to capture Magneto. Well, they choose to attack as Magneto was attending a seminar on those who had been lost in the Holocaust. I hope I got through all that right. I'm just now looking at my notes, and they're a bit of a jumble. And I haven't been looking at the X-Men for the past week because I've been trying to get the show for Hulk prepared. So I think that all sounded right. Stoger, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it definitely sounded right. So I like this issue a lot. I think the art is really solid. I think the coloring. I'm not sure if that's just because it's a recently printed Epic volume, and there's restorations, and they're on point with all of the print quality and the coloring versus the gift volume that we read, which was, I don't know, what did we say, maybe 10 years old?
Yeah,
Maybe a little less
2014,
than
I
that.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so almost 12 years old, and may not have gone through those same restorations, and definitely, had different paper quality and things like that. But JRJR and Dan Green here are doing solid work. I'm not really feeling the Rachel storyline, to be honest with you. It's not grabbing me. It's kind of more of an annoyance than anything else. I've always looked at her as a little bit older than the New Mutants, but I feel like she's almost acting more immature than the New Mutants, and is kind of throwing me through a loop. But I think all of the storyline in this issue is really solid, right? So, the setup of Freedom Force, which I've been looking forward to, the recaps going at to the Gray household that she's experiencing here. The costume's okay. It's not. I mean, I like it, but it's not like it's not making a lot of sense like what her powers are and where she's getting like the Phoenix powers. So it's just kind of like we're getting Phoenix, number two here, and kind of getting that forced on us. The battle with the Brotherhood is pretty cool. I like the cultural elements, the ethnic elements that Claremont's putting in here, right? Like it's not just that they're at a memorial, right? He's explaining what is going on here, right? You have survivors of the Holocaust that are coming together to talk about their stories, to see if they can find connections and loved ones and relatives and things of that nature. And while it comes off a little bit convenient that there's an actual connection made here for our main characters, I mean, it's a comic book. Like it almost needs to be there to illustrate why something like this would be so important to people that have lived through that or their relatives. So all of that, lands for me really well. I think it's much stronger to have Magneto be tied to his Jewish heritage and, be, carry that with him as a, no pun intended, cross to bear, as opposed to, just him always whining about being turned into a baby. Yeah, I enjoyed this issue a lot. I thought it was a strong kickoff to the overall Epic collection. What do you think?
Yeah, I do agree that the bit of the scene in the Holocaust Memorial Museum, that was nice. You did need to have that connection so that we, the reader, could feel that too. Otherwise, it's just going like, oh, we're watching a ceremony, whatever. But it has meaning to it, right? And that's why stuff like that's important. I thought this was a pretty strong start to the volume. I do kind of feel like it's just setting up things to come, but we're getting to get to know a bit more about Magneto and his motivation, and I think that really adds to his character. I think some kudos are needed for JRJR and how he's drawing Mystique shape-shifting. Let me actually get the comic viewer up for this one. I don't remember the actual page. Oh, this is page 9, right? He does this a couple times. Here's Mystique turning from Valerie Cooper into President Reagan, right? I honestly can't recall if this has been done before. It probably has, but I noticed it more in this issue. But to draw Mystique shapeshifting by having the character in two different spots within a single panel and then conveying movement between them with the lines and just some hints of the character's anatomy, I think is a really clever way and a smart way to show that she's changing shape. It's not just her one panel and her the next panel with a different face and same clothing. It's you're kind of getting that sense of movement and shifting, right? And I think this is one of the things that's so beautiful about comics, particularly in the days before CGI. This was the sort of thing you couldn't get in a movie. So we get a visual cue and our brain just kind of fills in the rest.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Stoger, any other thoughts?
Yeah, actually, since you had the comic viewer up, if you go to page 16 real quick,
Sure.
just a little Easter egg maybe. I think it's next page or
16?
there you go, right there. Yeah, bottom left of 16. It looks like the Holocaust survivor there stole the suit jacket from Henry Peter Gyrich. We talked about that, I don't know, 10 or 15 issues ago, back in the, I think it was the Life Death Epic Collection, where JR drew a full page spread of Henry, giving a speech or something, and he had sort of that blue checkered suit. It looks like we've reused that pattern for here, so it just kind of jumped out at me because of that. And then the other note that I'll make, which doesn't necessarily need to come up on the comic viewer, is just like we're introduced to a new character, Spiral, here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in order to understand the background of Spiral, we have to read the Long Shot miniseries, but the Long Shot miniseries is not actually collected in the Epic collections here. So the Long Shot miniseries is actually one of those open questions, I guess, for the Epic mapping, or it's just something that's going to fall through the cracks and get missed because there's not really a good place to put it. So it's not planned to be in the Mutant Massacre Epic Collection, which is the next volume, as far as I know, unless they change the contents at the last minute. And it's not here. Chronologically, here's where it would go because they reference it as part of Spiral's introduction. So they would have to include it in some other book, but I'm not sure what, because all of the other X books are kind of collected for right now, right? X Factor hasn't started yet, so on and so forth. So that's the only other little FYI item, is that's a bit of a miss that they just couldn't work into the mappings.
Yeah. And I have no clue what's going to happen there. I don't think anyone does, right?
Other than Spiral's introduced, so
yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up because as we're recording this, we're about to go live for the Incredible Hulk episode, and I need to get some coffee, man. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like our thoughts, follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a full big collected edition comic once a month, plus these daily one-shots. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.